Ah, you there. Come here. Don't be scared. I don't bite. Now, take a seat. Because I want to tell you some stories. Some scary stories. So, I'll be talking about some sleep paralysis, some sleep paralysis experiences I've had throughout my life, um, because it's Halloween. So, let's get started. So, when I was, I think, 6 years old, around that age, I had what you could say was my first sleep paralysis experience. But I wouldn't consider it completely sleep paralysis since I was able to move like the tiniest bit. And how the dream started was my eyes opened and I looked around my room and I noticed that there were satanic rituals kind of just plastered across the walls and what I assume is blood. It was red liquid dripping down the walls. And in the corner of my room, there was this man in kind of a robe-like suit. It was basically like if you picturize death, and he was chanting something very softly, so I had to listen very closely. And apparently, he was chanting about the creature Cthulhu. You should know what Cthulhu is. If you don't, I'm disappointed. But what's scary about this is I didn't know what Cthulhu was at that age. So all of a sudden, there's this Cthulhu thing. And what's really weird is I remember I was able to see what the Cthulhu looked like in my dream. So I now knew that it was kind of like a tentacle face with his just massive size and demon wings. And so this guy is chanting to Cthulhu. I remember he just said something about Cthulhu bring about the end of humanity. That's basically all I could really understand, and there were more things about Cthulhu, but that's really all I can remember. And basically, in that dream, I mustered up all of the strength I could to kind of lift my upper half body up. And the moment I did it, I was pushed directly down onto the bed. And after that, I was not able to move at all. And so it feels like there's like this weight on my chest. I just can't move. And so some time goes by and he keeps chanting about Cthulhu and I can't move and I'm getting more and more scared. And all of a sudden, right above me, this sort of portal opens. And all I see is two eyes looking right at me. And these two eyes who are looking right at me gives me a death date. And it was something like super unrealistic, like March 12th, 2050. Which I'm hoping that's not my death date. If it is, that's really awkward. It gives me this death date. And all of a sudden, the portal closes. And I wake up. When I wake up, I'm short of breath. It's like something was sitting on me. And the thing is that at this age, I kept my door shut at night, so there was no way that a cat could get into my room, unless one of my family members decided to just let him in. Which if they did, thanks for the trauma. Whoever it was, I'll find you one day. And I just had this weight on my chest. And I think I suffered from this weight like most of the day. And then next day, it was gone. Like it never even happened. But this is one of the creepier stories I have. Because I don't know. Once again, I'm always scared of, like, that might be my death date and it might not be. Like March 12th, 2050 mark it on your calendars. So, I actually do have a second story for you. So congrats. 2 stories. Even though I could probably extend the first one a bit longer. But so the second story takes place in so I have this, well, my family owns this like secondary house somewhere in like the mountains, like just the mountains. I won't tell you where. Don't find me, but the mountains. And basically, sometimes we go up there to just kind of, chillax and have a good time. So we have this eerily creepy basement, you could say. It's like, once again, it's directly under the house because that's how a basement works. But we have this kind of basement, and it's kind of like cluttered with kind of like rocks on the floor. It's not really like an actual basement. It's more of just like a storage area. So in this dream, for some reason, I was about 2, like 1 or 2 years old. I don't know why, but I was very young because I remember being very tall, or not tall, short. What am I talking about? I remember being very short. And so since I was short, I felt very small. Of course, that's how it works, right? But anyways, I remember waking up in that small area and I was freezing. And while I'm freezing, I'm trying to move and all of a sudden I can't move. But there's this like really sharp like spike or like rock going into my back that starts to, it starts to hurt. So I'm trying to, move. I'm trying to get my way out of here. I'm thinking, okay, if I don't get out of here, I'll probably die. Because it's like going through like my skin. And I'd say it's basically at where the back of my spine is at this point. And so I continue and I try to move and I can't, of course. And all of a sudden I hear the like little lock start to jingle, right? It starts to like move and I'm thinking, finally, I'm saved, right? Someone help me, right? So all of a sudden, this lady comes in and she has eerily long hair. I mean like very long. Like think Rapunzel long. Is that what I said? I don't know Disney princesses. All I know is she has very long hair. And she comes in, right? And she's hiding one eye, and her hair is just a mess. She comes in, and she says, "Oh, what are you doing here?" I thought I left everyone back at the graveyard. And so, at this point, I'm thinking, did this lady murder my entire family? And so, she picks me up, and I kind of get this, like, bottom view, like if, like, a mother were to hold her child. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, it goes black, like my eyes shut, and it reopens. And I see basically the remains of my family. I won't go into too much detail. All I remember is they were all sitting next to each other, kind of bare, like in their like grave, basically. Like yeah, they had no like coffin or anything, but they're sitting in one giant like a dirt box, and they're all sitting there, and they have millions of just stab wounds in them. Well, I wouldn't say millions, but they had just lots of stab wounds in their chests, in their legs, in their head especially. And they're of course dead. And I try to of course fight back, but I'm not able to move. So she says, "Well, you might as well join the fun." And she carefully, very carefully, places me into she places me into the middle of basically where my family is resting. And she grabs a nearby shovel and she starts to throw dirt. So she's burying me alive, and I'm pleading her not to do this. And at the last second, she says, "No witnesses." So I get buried. But the story doesn't end there. Moments later, I hear a noise. Something such as like a groan. Something you could say, something like a zombie, you could say. And all of a sudden I hear a lot of zombies. And the next thing I know, there are a bunch of just eyes looking at me. I think, and what I assume is my family. And so the last thing I hear before I wake up is, "We won't starve, we have the little one." And so I freaked out and I woke up. Now, I have part of the story that kind of matches up. In the beginning, I said I was cold, and I was basically cold throughout the entirety of it. And I wake up with no blanket on, which, you could assume is normal. But the part that was weird was that I had this kind of, like, mark, like, on my back. And it was like a very slim, like, okay, think of how you would, like, stab somebody, don't stab anybody. Think of how, like, a knife would go into something and it leaves kind of like a hole there. So think that, but, like, very softly, something like it just presses against it. And I wasn't bleeding or anything, but all I remember is that place hurt a lot and it was very sore. And actually what's funny is I haven't even told my family about this. I think I've told nobody about this. So you guys will be the first to hear it from me. My sleep paralysis does not go great. And yeah, that's kind of it. I hope you guys did enjoy this episode. I'm trying to go for like a new angle. So, well, I wasn't really a live commentary. I felt like it'd be more spooky if I just kind of recorded instead of me going, "Oh my gosh, guys, oh, I'm about to get him." Oh, and then you just hear my mouse clicking. But that's gonna be it. So, I hope you guys have a good Halloween. And that is it. See you later, idiots. 1,000 thank yous for listening to my stories. They're some of my favorites. Oh, and I hope you don't mind that I brought a friend with me.